Hi everyone, welcome and thanks for coming. So my name is Ignacio. I'm from Spain. I'm based in London. I work for the Google Play team. So within the Play Store, I usually work on my day-to-day with mobile 2D, traditional mobile games. So the likes of like the ones that we have here in Finland, a lot of very successful examples. I can see one with a sweater of Romeo. So anyway, so I work with mobile 2D games, but also as a 20% project, I'm working with the Daydream, Tango, AR Core, all the cool stuff that we're working at Google. So a lot of things around VR and AR, which is great because I get to demo a lot of your games. And so today I'm going to talk about Daydream, but if you have any questions also around the Play Store, happy to answer them at the end. This is going to be a little bit like Pecha Kucha style. I have like 40 slides and 15 minutes, so I'm going to try to do it as quickly as I can. Right? Let me just see if it works. Oh, so, yeah, that's it. So that's a bit like an intro slide, very, very easy. Like that's where we are working as of today. Nothing yet on reality. Google is not working on changing the reality, but we are doing interesting things in augmented reality. I'm not going to cover this. There's a lot of hype around AR. Particularly, we announced AR Core on the 29th of August. Not sure if you're aware of, but this is super interesting. It comes along with the AR Kit announcement from iOS, and also we've been working on AR since 2014 with the Tango project, which I'm not sure how many are you familiar with, but it's a very cool project, and that's kind of like a demo. And then obviously today we're going to talk about VR and Daydream. In fact, well, this is actually a screenshot, a GIF that I did from Tiltbrush, which is one of my favorite apps. I think someone was mentioning which is your favorite app in VR, and definitely one of mine is Tiltbrush. And this is not me; it's a friend. He did this small little GIF, and it's quite cool, I think. So if we move on, like the agenda very quickly, so I'm just going to give a brief introduction of what is Daydream, what are the recent launches and announcements that we made, and then how we can move on there and how you can think about publishing your game as of today if you're thinking about Daydream as a platform. So Daydream, so the whole goal of Daydream is a high-quality VR experience. We started as a smartphone mobile VR experience, but we are moving on. And probably you heard at I/O, we announced the all-in-one device hasn't been launched, has been announced, but still we are working with some partners I will talk about later. But it is kind of like an upgrade, same platform, same specs, but you will have a separate device, so you will not need your phone. But I'm going to cover first the smartphone VR. So what it consists of smartphone VR. So if you're familiar, we started with Cardboard. Cardboard was the initiative that it launched at I/O. Very simple. You can access VR through your mobile, the smartphone, with all these specs and the accelerometer, gyroscope that your smartphone already have. And then we thought about like, well, why don't we just offer a premium experience? And that's how Daydream starts with like basically 3 components. We're talking about like smartphones, so the Daydream ready smartphones. Then we have the headset and controllers, and then we talk about like experience, which is what I'm working on. So I'm working on the last piece, which would be like how we can bring cool content to the platform. That would be kind of like my role on the Daydream part, not so much on the OEM deals or like talking to manufacturers, how many smartphones are we going to have by the end of the year, but I definitely can try to answer those questions. So smartphones in Daydream, like as a platform, as a premium mobile VR platform, we're trying to kind of like, we need some specs and obviously like latency, things that like enough memory, enough performance from the phones in order to support these high demanding apps. So for that reasons, we kind of like created these specifics of Daydream. And this badge, which is Daydream Ready VR, which is not exclusive to like Google phones, like the Pixel, but it's also like we are partnering with a lot of OEMs, trying to get them to comply, let's say, meet the requirements from a technical perspective to run this type of apps. So we have a number of devices. I think you have the whole list here. So the first one were obviously the Pixel X and XL, but there is new phones that they came all along this year. So the platform was Daydream was launched last year, October last year. So it's barely less than a year. And since then we have a number of phones. You have a list here. You have the whole list in the link there. But and also we have Samsung S8, which it was kind of like a big announcement for us because it means that we can reach a higher number of users and then expand the platform and the reach of your games or of your content that when you're thinking about like building games to this platform, right? So the whole idea is like generate as much as, or at the end of the year, or moving on, having more and more Daydream-ready phones so we can run and we can reach more users. What about the Daydream View? Well, so the Daydream View is the headset and the viewer. I'm not going to spend too much time on it. You've probably seen many pictures. So it's fairly simple. This is the first one. Doesn't mean there are not other ones. And I've seen many of them coming from Asia, manufacturers that they are building other Daydreams viewer. But this is like the first one that we launched. Very simple. I think the whole idea is like first comfortable, which is like you like that's the textile and the fabrics, but then it was easy to use. So the whole point is like, well, I do not need any more than just like this simple stuff. I put my phone into it. Actually, when I'm not sure if you've tried, but when you put the phone, immediately it recognizes that it's getting into Daydream, so activates the Daydream, Bluetooth activates itself, and then you start running the app immediately. So it's fairly simple, and we are trying to get the VR experience as simpler as possible so the users, they do not have to think about like, how does it work, right? For me, the most interesting part is always the controller. The controller is fairly easy, like it reminds a bit of a Wii mode, and you have it's a 3.3, so it's 3 degrees of freedom as of today. You have a couple of buttons, like we recommend to use all developers. There's 16 experiments in the website that you can try, and you can experiment with what can you do with the controller as of today. But mostly what I've seen is the touchpad, which is clickable, and you have many users, so many developers there using it in very creative ways and thinking about like, I don't know, how to handle a weapon, how to move, teleportation, things like that. And then also the home button, the app button, which is the one in the middle, which also allows to, like it's at the disposal of the developers and they can use it as they want. The home button is reserved for like the system, so you can go back in case the user has a signal, like motion sickness or something like that and wants to exit, and then you have the volume buttons on the side. So, but from a developer's perspective, the most interesting, I would say, is the touchpad, which is clickable, and then the app button. So yeah, and standalone VR. So standalone VR was announced at I/O, and you have so we are partnering here with very exciting. So first of all, we are using some of the technology that it was like coming from the Tango research. That's why I was mentioning. So we have this new technology called WorldSense, allows kind of like to gather the data from outside into the standalone VR headset, so we do not need like those sensors, like motion tracking sensors from outside, the towers that we usually have in other, maybe in other devices. And the idea is like you can just put it. Still is to be launched. If you're going to ask me like when are the dates, this belongs to the kind of like the other team. So we don't have any exact dates as of today, but we are expecting like very soon, because at the announcement we were talking about like end of the year. So I hope that it would be very soon and we can have it. So first is Vive. You can have more information about the Vive device all in one. And then the other one, which is exciting also, it's Lenovo. So again, more information coming soon. Stay tuned, because we hope that these devices will be very soon available for users. And this will, again, increase the reach of potential apps that you put into the platform. So more users, more devices means also more users and more possibilities to expand your user base. So what about the experiences? So experiences on Daydream. By the way, I forgot the all-in-one you probably heard is a 6.3 degrees of freedom. So you had tracking, while the smartphone's VR would be 3.3. So I'm mentioning this when I'm talking about the experiences because then you need to think like people that are developers that are developing for Daydream, they're thinking already in all-in-one device, and they're thinking, well, do my experience, I'm gonna just make it compatible for both the smartphone VR and also you have a mode which kind of like you can upgrade and play in 6.3 when you're talking about all-in-one device. So this is quite interesting. And so experiences. So Android was the first already operating system that was including a number of features to run the Daydream device, the Daydream apps, including, well, kind of like fairly makes common sense. We're talking about like low latency, sustained performance, head tracking, and system UI. So all the functionalities you would need in order to run a Daydream app. And Android O, obviously, it continues. And so that's how it looks like, the environment. So when you access Daydream, you would basically see the home section with some apps, the Play Store, the YouTube in this case, and your library, and the settings. And these are some of the apps, the games that we have as of today. We have, I think there's more than 200 games already published in the platform, which is phenomenal because we started, as I said, less than a year ago. And a range of developers, from indie developers, like I think it's Mekorama, for example, over there, coming from here, from the Nordics, up to AAA quality such as CCP or the Need for Speed No Limits VR from Electronic Arts. So it's great because you have a wide variety, and some of the games are very, very, very good quality and like long experiences and not just like the demos that we were talking about. So we are maturing and we are seeing that the content is expanding, and that's very good news for users and for developers. So the good news is that you can self-publish as of today. So there's like you can basically publish your demo. It will be reviewed by the UX team, and you will get like the okay to go. And so a couple of tips. I'd say the first one is, well, when we talk about monetization, most of Daydream apps and games as of today, they are trying the usual premium model coming from the console world. If you're going this way, think about first like try before you buy. This is a good recommendation. There's a couple of features, like last year we launched a functionality in the Play Store for mobile 2D games called the strike-through pricing. Basically shows the user the real price, and then you have the discount. This, I think, is a good technique because you show the value, and this lasts for a certain period of time, but it will be very interesting. Also, as I said, try before you buy, maybe a demo, a couple of levels for free, and then you can upgrade. And very important, when we are talking about premium games, one of the main recommendations that we give, not only on 3D, but also on 2D, as I said, is ratings. And ratings in the Play Store are critical, as you know, especially for premium games, because it is the first barrier, and it's the moment of truth when the user is deciding whether to spend money on this or not. And it's going to scroll down, check the reviews, see if it is a 4.7, that makes sense. How many reviews? Only one. My mother, the mother of the developer, the friend, the girlfriend. So you can see like, okay, though there is 1,000 reviews, 4.7, I read a couple of them, read through them, and it says that the game is awesome. So I'm just going to buy. So this is very, very important. And also, keep in mind that we are going to reply this. So Daydream 2.0, this was announced at I/O, as I said, is coming the updates very soon. And there's a couple of interesting features that I wanted to highlight. So the first one is the Daydream Home. We are revamping it, so you will have a nice and different look and feel. This is Virtual Rabbits from Ubisoft, recently launched at the end of August. And you have the notifications, so this is also a feature that many users demanded, like, well, I still want to see if someone is calling me while I'm playing VR. Casting, also super demanded feature by users. Everything that is casting for, I don't know, broadcast, like put it into YouTube or whatever platform. And also screenshots. This is Eclipse of Edge of Light, one of my favorite games. You can see you can take the screenshots, so something that is also very demanded. Video capture, as I said, very much demanded by users and coming to the platform very soon. And lastly is the YouTube co-watching, which is also announced at I/O and basically allows more as a social VR, join with other people and watch the same video, which is basically we're trying to generate some of these features. As you can see, they're very social. It's one of the drivers of engagement in the platform. We've seen that multiplayer, social, casting, all these things are driving engagement back to games. It's very easy to get the wow experience from users, but harder to convince them to come back to the platform. And all these multiplayer and casting will definitely help people to come back. So yes, to summarize, so Daydream, for us, it means a premium VR experience, both to a smartphone, and now we're talking about all-in-one. So for these, we need like a Daydream-ready phone, a phone that is able to run these high-demanding applications. Also, we need the viewer, and as you can see, there's like it's an easy and comfortable, like we're basically aiming to spread VR across all users and use the computers that we have in our pockets. And it has great content, as you can see, and you can self-publish today. So if you have any questions about publishing or creating content, I'm here afterwards, so happy to answer these. And the all-in-one is coming, and Daydream 2.0, which is very soon going to be rolled out in your phones, so stay tuned for that. And with further that, I'm not sure if we have time for questions.
We do. Right. So wonderful presentation. Questions from the audience?
Yes, that's good. We have one question.
Announce who you are and then ask the question.
Hi, Samsakuha, Refine Reality Limited. If you do a game for standalone VR, can you ditch the whole cardboard Daydream thing? Or do you have to release for both platforms?
Yeah, I think when you're publishing in Daydream, you're publishing for both platforms. And I would not recommend you to, as of today, I would not recommend you to just publish for only one device. You want to reach as many users as you can, especially if you're like launching a premium game. Yeah. And you want to make like, I'm assuming that you want to increase your sales and revenues, unless you're. So definitely, I would recommend you to think about the two platforms. And when you're thinking about considering the all-in-one, I will expand the experience, having in mind that you have this world sense technology that allows you to have 6 degrees of freedom in your head tracker.
Yeah, all right, thanks.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Difficult questions? I didn't bring any prize, but...
Question over here.
My name is Alexei, Planaplan VR. A couple of technical questions about standalone VR. Am I right that it's able to track your movements in 6 dimensions? I mean rotation and 3-axis.
Yeah.
And are there any limitations to the room size or what it has to contain inside of this room to be tracked right?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, good question. I don't have the specific, like, I think my understanding is like 1.5 meters. I'm not really sure, 100% sure of that, but last thing I heard is, obviously, you cannot move all, like, I mean, this might be the future where we can walk this room and it's included in VR and AR, and we're talking about mixed reality. As of today, I think it's a 1.5 meter diameter, what you're going to be able to move. Probably the all-in-one device is going to recognize the space, and then based on that, based on the elements that you have, it's going to be able to estimate if you moved one step or you just like move backwards. Mm-hmm. But yes, definitely a limitation there.
So most of movements are connected to the joystick. I mean that there is just a couple of steps to the left, to the right, and yeah. Everything else is just...
Yes, mm-hmm. Yes. I think the interesting part here is like you can lower your head, for example, if you have a hidden object game, and then you want to like look what is under the table, or you want to kind of like move a little bit around. So it's not going to be like your... I wouldn't think about like usages like, I don't know, walking around a room, a VR room, and then just like finding things.
Yeah, thanks. And the last question about considered latency time. Is it, of course, I'm not asking you to compare with your competitors, but we all know like Samsung Gear VR, and we worked with that. Did you measure latency time? Is it a little bit better, maybe? or worse? I mean that sometimes people get nausea in Gear VR. Does Daydream get rid of that problem?
Yeah. Well, that's a very interesting question. I think it's subject for debate. I'm not going to comment on my competitors, obviously, because then how did Ignacio got fired? He was at Helsinki during a Poké Gamer event. Anyway, so no, I'm not going to comment on that. But based on like nausea and motion sickness, there's a number of people that think it's the device. What we actually think many times is like, is the developer, as developers, we don't know yet how to build VR games, and sometimes we think that because we are very much used to that, like all our users will be also. So I think there's two ways of considering. I played many games in VR and in Daydream, and I don't have any motion sickness or nausea. I think they are very well done. It's just a matter of like, how do you build the games, and how do you design those games to avoid motion sickness? So the usual recommendations that you probably hear, avoid like fast-moving teleportation, like running, speed, things like that.